impacts of COVID-19 pandemic. In 2017, Duvall was honored by the National 4-H Council as a founding luminary. Zippy, does that make you part of the Illuminati? Just a question. This is a group of influential 4-H alumni that he was inducted into. Prior to being elected as AFBF president, he was president of the Georgia Farm Bureau and served on the AFBF board of directors. In 1987, he also served a year on the AFBF board as the Young Farmer Committee chairman. Duvall and his wife Jennifer were married in December of 2021. Both she and Zippy lost their first spouses, and with this new marriage, the family has grown from 4 children and 5 grandchildren to 6 children and 7 grandchildren. So Zippy, we look forward to hearing from you. And I'll just say, I've known Zippy for a long time, and Zippy's just a really good guy too. So Zippy, wait to hear from you.
Thank you, Charlie, and I appreciate that introduction, and I appreciate the opportunity to come be with you today. I feel like I'm talking for food. Hey, I was looking at this. I love y'all's emblems that we pull the most when we pull together. That pretty much explains American Farm Bureau. So I really like that slogan, and appreciate the opportunity to come speak to you. Last time I come see you, I don't really know, it must have been 5 years ago maybe. Bonnie was still alive at that time, but real sick, and y'all were so gracious. And I remember that trip because she and I drove over here from Washington, and on our drive back we just took our time and saw some of this beautiful state. And she often went back and talked about that trip we took that day on the way back to Washington. So thank you for giving her a really awesome week that we to be able to experience one of the prettiest places in this country, and that's West Virginia. So thank you for that. Charlie told you I'd remarried, and when I lost Bonnie after 40 years, I thought my life was over, and I wasn't doing real well, and had no idea how I was going to continue on. And what happened to me is a perfect example that God has a plan for all of us. We don't know what that plan is. And another beautiful, wonderful woman into my life that lost her husband to cancer, and started out her helping me try to get through what I was going through, and it turned into something else. And we are absolutely delighted to be with each other. And she would have loved to be with you tonight, but I'm hitting 4 states this week. And I told her, I said, that means 5 different hotel rooms, and I don't think you'll enjoy that too much. So she set this one that, but hopefully real soon I can get her back up here and let her see this beautiful state. She's a delight. She's a retired school teacher, and we just enjoy being together. So look forward to y'all meeting her real soon. Charlie, I have to tell y'all now, Charlie got something in his mind, he's going to call me and tell me. You believe that? Yeah, Charlie will tell me, man. He's going to tell me the truth. He's going to tell me just like he thinks. Hey, that's the way I like it. Reminds me of my mama. When she went to tell you something, you better draw your toes up because she's going to stomp them while she was telling you. So, Charlie, I appreciate your honesty and your counsel. He does a great job. And then Kent just spoke as y'all's Commissioner of Agriculture. He and I have become good friends. I apologize again for not making that conference last year, but something came up and I was unable to get here. But he called me when he first started planning that conference. Asked me if I'd come, and I was delighted to accept that. But I think I was in the White House, if I remember right. Yeah. So when the White House calls, I'm sorry. You just got to do that. So I know we've recognized earlier in Vespers this afternoon, the memorial, our veterans, but I'd like to take another opportunity to ask if we have veterans in the room, please stand and let us give you a round of applause. Please let us do that for you. Please stand up. Let's give these you so much, because we are here today and we are a free country today because of your sacrifice. And I am the father of an Army guy who is just about getting ready to retire. Yeah, I'm that old. I can't believe it either when I think about my son fixing to retire. But he spent about 18 months back during the service over Iraq and flew 119 combat missions. But I'm going to tell you a story that he left me with that happened between he and I while he was over there. It kind of exemplifies the Veterans Day to me because of what he experienced that day. But he called home, and he never called home to talk to Dad. And I asked him after it was over with, I said, "Why don't you call home son, let me hear your voice?" And he said, "It was better just to go to work and just not think about it." Because he said, "I get to thinking about the farm, and thinking about you and Mama, and it just made it harder." And so he called home, and I knew when he called home and asked me something was wrong. And he called home looking for a word of encouragement from his dad, because he had lost a good friend that day. And he was about as low as I ever heard my son be. And here I was, a man that had never been to war, never served in the military, and his son called home looking for something to uplift him. And I thought, oh my God, if you ever give me any word, give me something today. And I said, "Son," I said, "I know you're low. And I know it's a dangerous place. I know you're sad about your friend." I said, "But I tell you what," I said, "you just do what you got to do. Keep your head down. Come home. I'll buy you about 200 Holstein cows, put you in dairy business. You won't have to never think about that sandbox again." Phone went silent. I said, "Son, you still there?" He said, "Yeah, Dad." I said, "Excuse me, President. It's hell over here, but it ain't that bad." And immediately I thought, what did I do to that child when he was growing up with all the milk cows there? Because we milked cows all my life and most of his childhood. And he did get the blunt of it. My kids knew better than do anything wrong because I just sent them right on to the barn. Right on the barn, and you tell them, I told them, my daddy told me, he said, "You gonna play like a man, you gonna work like a man." And that'll cure a lot of problems with young people. So thank you for y'all being here, because our state conventions are important to us. We come to do our work and put that policy out there. It's one step to get it to us as American Farm Bureau. So what you do, what you've done in your county with county resolutions, what you're gonna do this week is the most important thing you will do. Because when you go back home, we take that work that you've done and we carry it on. And it is the book that we use each and every day at the American Farm Bureau. It is important work. And it's important, well, we did that last year. No, things change. Agriculture's not the same this year as it was last year. We always have to look at that book. We always have to look at that book and make sure it's current. Because you don't want our experts that work for us, our 9 lobbyists, being standing on the hill representing something that's in a book that's not updated. Our policy development process is the most important work we do. And then, of course, we come to eat good food and fellowship with our friends we haven't seen in a year. And that's just as important, because we are a Farm Bureau family. We are a Farm Bureau family, and that's important. So thank you for being here today and doing Farm Bureau work. And I hope you enjoy the other 2 things, the good food and the good fellowship. I know that things have been difficult. Agriculture is just a big roller coaster ride. My dad, he explained it to me a long time ago. He says, "This is what you want to do. It's like a roller coaster. You just buckle up, hold on tight. Because you're going to be in the highs, you're going to be in the lows. You better be filling your bank account when you're on the high, because you're going to spend it out when you get in the low." And that's just the way it is, and you got to learn how to manage that money and manage your time to do that. During COVID, it was especially difficult. I had the privilege of working with the Trump administration during that time, returned $68 billion, working with him and Secretary Perdue back to farmers and ranchers across America to help agriculture get through a very, very difficult time. And We, as an organization, had to search our soul to see how we, as an organization, was going to get through COVID. We're in the people business. If y'all don't come to Washington to see your congressman and let us brief before you go, what do we get accomplished? You're the most powerful individuals in this organization. It's not me, not the people who work for us. It's you and your stories. Y'all are powerful. When y'all come to town, it makes things happen. You might not think it does, but it does. Because we plowed the ground and laid the groundwork. And y'all come in, y'all just harvested for us. Did you ever see a crop wasn't harvested? What a waste. Y'all are the most powerful people in our organization, and I know that. But during COVID, we had to figure out how we were going to handle that. Because we're in the people business, you weren't coming to town. You weren't leaving your farm, you were just working. And we had to figure out how to do that. So we decided we were going to go back to our roots and we were going to communicate at extreme levels. So we started talking to each state farm bureau every week, every department, communications. I had presidents call every week. We had a program call every week. Legislators, national affairs groups have a call every week. And we found out what you were experiencing in your state. We went and found some expert to try to find a solution to that problem. And then we put that expert on the phone with me the next week with your state presidents across the country. I remember one afternoon I had 1,500 county presidents on the phone with the President of the United States of America. I don't know if that's ever been done before. It was an awesome afternoon to know that the President of the United States was so concerned about rural America and American farmers and ranchers that he would take an hour out of his schedule to talk to county farm bureau presidents. You think they've done that because of me? No. He done that because this great organization represents rural America. We are the economic engine for rural America. We're the one that makes the things turn. And he knew that, and we were able to capitalize on that. So I traveled, a lot of people say, what do you do? I travel about half the time. I'm at conventions, meetings, on farms, gathering stories from farmers, take them back to Washington, D.C. and use them where I think it best helps us. And I use a lot of farmer stories across Washington, D.C. And it's tremendous when I use your stories. But my story is always better when it's my story. Your story is the best when you tell it. When you tell it. When you come to Washington, a town hall meeting. We should never miss the opportunity to go to a town hall meeting with a congressman or a senator. Never. It is important business. Because if you're not there talking about the issue, how WOTUS affects you, how regulation affects you, how the SEC rule affects you, if you're not there telling that story, somebody else is going to tell it, and I'm going to tell it right. A town hall meeting is important. And opening up your farm to constituents, to people that work in congressional offices, huge. Those young people have absolutely no idea, and they're telling that congressman how he ought to vote, based on what they know. And if you don't bring them onto your farm and tell them what you're doing and why you're doing it, they're going to give him wrong information. I had a daughter that worked there for 7 years. I know. She was a powerful young lady. Because they depend on them to do the research and tell them how to vote. So those things are just absolutely very much important, and it's things that you can do as grassroots of this organization. I've heard heartbreaking stories, and I've heard amazing stories of how people survive difficult times. You know, challenges, they shape us. You know, the challenges I've been through have shaped me, made me who I am. But our challenges don't define us. What defines us is how we handle those challenges, how we react to them. And as an organization, we reacted to COVID in the right way. Because we increased that communication, we brought our organization closer together, which made us a tighter family. And a family that works together, and plays together, is the one that is successful together. And our organization did it the right way. So I appreciate the role that all of you have played during COVID, and I really appreciate where we're at because we got back to our roots. We went back to doing Farm Bureau like our fathers and grandfathers did. And we will not forget that as long as I'm president of this organization. You know, regardless of what you think, how alone you feel like you are out of control, how difficult it is, I tell you, we got you back. We're talking about the issues I'm speaking to talk about every day with important people, the ones that could, if there's a chance for them to make a difference, could make a difference, and we're telling them what you need. So the first one I wanted to talk about a little bit was input costs, because everywhere I go, that's the first thing I hear about. Of course, the input costs, a lot of it around inputs for our farm are exactly what's happening because of what's happening in that war overseas. It's influencing so many things. And then, of course, regulation and energy policy of this administration. Those things are really affecting what we have to buy, whether it be diesel fuel or fertilizer or chemicals. It is affected the availability and the cost. And of course, supply chain. During COVID, we saw our supply chain not break, but it come close to breaking. We went from just in time growing animal, I'm grow chickens. Before that chicken is hatched, they know what day they're going to kill it, and they know what day Chick-fil-A is going to get it before it even hatches. And boy, you throw COVID in there and people not showing up at the plant to harvest those chickens, that just in time don't work no more. So now we're trying to adjust to just in case it ever happens again. I mean, Chick-fil-A went from having 30-day storage to 90-day storage. That's why there's still not enough stuff out there. How do you produce enough stuff to give them 90 days of storage? And that's just one example of all the companies across America. That's why we can't get a part for our John Deere tractor. They just don't have enough parts to put people, have storage enough for everybody to get along with. The supply chain also having tremendous difficulty because of labor. Not enough labor out there to produce. Transportation. Can't get enough truck drivers. The river's lower in the Mississippi. I mean, and now we're threatened with a rail strike. What else can happen to America and American agriculture? Difficult times. And then, of course, the regulations is just running wild. And we're trying our best to keep brakes on a lot of that stuff, trying to make sure they're not as bad as they could be. And I'll tell you, you'll never know. You'll never know. We have had a lot of opportunities to minimize the things that are happening. They could be a lot worse if we weren't there. A lot worse. And you'll never know that because it's not going to make the news. But I've been right in the middle of all of it, and I know how we've been able to pull some stuff back from falling off the cliff. And that's been encouraging to me in a very difficult time. And then, of course, there's a fear of worldwide hunger. You think people are going to get hungry? I tell you, they're going to get hungry. It's sad. Not just because of world events, but because of policies from other countries in the world. Look at Europe. They're Farm to Fork policies. Well, they're taking every tool that their farmers have in their toolbox out and making them go back to farm like their grandfathers did and paying them to have their farms look pretty instead of productive. That policy will starve people in America and in Africa. That policy that's being adopted by Mexico, our nearest neighbor, and other countries that are entertaining that idea in the name of climate. Now, I'm worried about climate too, don't get me wrong. but I'm not willing to sacrifice children starving to death because of it. We gotta make sure that people in this world can be fed, and that food can get to them, and that we can get the inputs that we need to grow it. We can grow the food, and we can prevent people from starving if the politics in the country get out of the way. And I am very, very concerned about the young people in this world that's going to starve. The other issue I want to talk to you about Farm Bill. We got Farm Bill coming up. I'm going to write it next year. A lot of people think we won't get it done. I'm going to be optimistic and say, yes, we are. And you'll probably tell me at the end of next year, I told you we wouldn't. But if we go into it with that attitude, we won't. We're going to get it done. We're going to work hard. We've been working 2 years with our Farm Bill Working Group. We invited all our national affairs people from all over the country, from all our farm bureaus to take part in that. Put the recommendations in front of the board. They unanimously voted for them. We're going to be protecting crop insurance. It's cornerstone of our farm bill. We're going to make sure that Title I farm programs are there. We're going to make sure that conservation, climate, smart practices, sustainability, whatever you want to name it, it's conservation to you and I. And we're going to make sure that American people know that we didn't start this year. I had so many people say, we got to teach y'all how to do this right. Let me tell you something. We know how to do it right. We've been doing it for decades. Come look at my farm. And if I had pictures of when my grandfather was there, it doesn't even look like the same farm. And we're still working on it. We need to make sure that they know we've been working on it. And if they want us to do more, then let's spend the research and development dollars, put the research out there, show us that it's scientifically based, and make it voluntarily a market incentive, and we'll do it. We have done it in conservation, we'll do it in climate, and we'll do it in sustainability. But if they want us to help continue to save this planet, they're going to have to give us those projects, that research to be able to know what they need us to do next. And they got to help us put it on the ground. And if they don't do it, all small farmers are going to lose out. That's my biggest concern. Every meeting I go to, I don't care where it's at, whether it's the White House, Congress, or just in the CEO group. My question is always well, how is that going to affect a small, medium-sized farm? If it's only that guy's farming 15,000, 20,000 acres, it ain't going to work. Because 98% of the farmers in America are still owned by family farms. And the average size is still very small. We got to make sure that all these things coming down the pipeline will keep small, medium-sized farmers and large farmers in the business, and we're going to make sure we protect that. So we need to research and development dollars, and then as farmers, we got to understand we'll never have another farm bill if nutrition is not tied to it. I remember the day when I said, well, let's just get a farm bill and see who's really dedicated to agriculture. We don't want to know. Not in Congress, we don't want to know the answer to that question. It has to have nutrition tied to it. And the battle won't be about farm programs. It'll be about nutrition and how they deliver it, how much money is going to be in it. But we got to win by having a farm bill, because that's what helps us protect our crops and our farms so we can get to the next season if we have a terrible disaster on our farm. So we continue to labor. I could talk about that all day long. The biggest limiting factor that American agriculture has is labor. And you and I, as farmers and businessmen, can sit down at the table and solve the problem before lunchtime tomorrow. But the politicians can't get there. They don't have the stomach to do it. And it's time for us to tell them that they gotta stiffen their back up and they gotta get the guts to do it. Thank you. Trade, this administration is like a snail when it comes to trade. And then when they did do the Indo-Pacific Agreement, it didn't give us open markets. So it didn't accomplish anything for us. We are right now trying to push them to make sure that they enforce the USMCA. Because if Mexico keeps going towards the direction they're going with corn, they're gonna break that treaty, and we need to make sure that they enforce that treaty and make sure that they do right by that agreement. Because 1 out of every 3 rows of corn is planted for the foreign market, and Mexico's one of our biggest customers. And now they're buying into the farm to fork program from Europe, and that means they want to do away with all the chemicals that we use and all the biotechnology that we use, and they don't want corn produced that way. And we got to find some way to get around that, and we're consistently talking about it. The SEC rule, I tell you, it's a perfect example of how powerful we are when our members are engaged. We actually found the SEC rules they put out saying that they were going to ask all companies that were being traded to report their carbon footprint all the way back to the raw materials. Where does just about every company get their raw materials? From the farm. If that rule had passed and nobody brought attention to it, we could have been loaded, burdened down with paperwork and consultants and lawyers and everything else trying to justify our carbon footprint so that we could give it to Walmart or whoever else is being traded on the market to justify their market, their carbon footprint, because we deliver the raw materials to them. So after we put out a call to you, our members, we generated thousands of emails to the SEC. And then the chairman, Gensler of the SEC, called me and wanted to know why he was getting all these emails from Farm Bureau members. So I explained it to him, and he said, oh, that's not what I meant to do. So now we have a seat at the table. Hopefully, we can convince them that it's not the right thing to do, and we can have a tremendous influence on that ruling, and it won't be as bad as it could have been if we had not have been there. So I just want to, that's just a few of the issues that we're fighting for you every day. We got your back. When you're at the barn on a tractor or the sale barn or whatever you're doing, we got your back every day. But what makes us strong is you. And let me tell you let me tell you a little story, and I'll finish up with this story and tell you what our biggest challenge coming in front of us is going to be. And it's not inputs. So last summer, my grandson, 10 years old, he comes to the farm and spent a few days with me. Like most young kids about that age, they want to go to the creek in the middle of the summer, and he wanted to build a swing across the creek. So I went and bought a new rope, we went down there, and it took us about 2 hours to throw that rope over the right limb, And you know how a 10-year-old, he didn't have patience to do that. He was all frustrated and ready to go. We finally got it over, and then, of course, I bought the wrong rope, had a stretch in it. Every time he'd go across, he'd drag, So he was so disappointed. He's Vincent's son. He was so disappointed. I said, well, come on, let's go get us a hamburger, and I'll buy some good rope this time, and we'll fix it. But all along, he doesn't. It's going to take us 2 more hours to get that rope over that thing, and I know you ain't going to give me 2 more hours. We're going to have to go to work. And he just rolled his hands. I said, don't worry about it. We'll get it. So I got back there, and I took the new rope, and I tied it onto the old rope, and I pulled it up over. He looked at me. He said, you're a genius. I said, what? He said, you're a genius. I said, say it again. I tell you that story because I was a genius about 4 times that week. I tell you that story because the biggest challenge we have in front of us is we got a new Congress going to come to town. We don't really know who all they are yet. But we got a new Congress come to town. And a huge percentage of them have never written a farm bill. They don't even know what farm bill is. They don't even know farm bill and nutrition is together. But they're fixing to find out. Biggest challenge we got is to get those new people to understand why their constituents need a farm bill. Whether it be nutrition, or whether if they come from a rural area and they know what crop insurance really is. And risk management tools. Biggest challenge we got in front of us. We don't do that when it comes to the farm. But you know who's gonna have to do it? We're gonna lay the groundwork. We're gonna go introduce American Farm Bureau to every one of them. We're gonna let them know who that specialist is in our department that they can call and use as a resource. But until you call them and say, look, I'm a farmer, and this is how the farm bill affects me. When you do that, then we made that connection, and we plowed that ground where we can plant a crop that'll reach harvest. The most important people in this organization is grassroots. A lot of organizations talk about grassroots. We live by them. You are the most important people. When you see an email or text from me saying, please call your congressman, please call your congressman, it is important. It is important for them to hear from you. Because I promise you, after we send that out, we're going to give you a couple of weeks or a couple of days, and we're going to have somebody sitting in their office. And when they want somebody to testify, we're going to call one of you and ask you to come testify. We're going to help you do it. This organization is great because of our reputation of doing what's right, our reputation that our policies are built by farmers from the ground up, and because we do things respectfully. That's why people appreciate the American Farm Bureau and Farm Bureau. Now, I will tell you that not many people know how strong we really are. I'm the 12th president of American Farm Bureau in 103 years. I dare say that only 11 other people really know how powerful you can be if I can get you excited about being part of it and being engaged. You sit down at night, read the market intel on our website and educate yourself and make a phone call, it's powerful. Listen, we're American agriculture. We're the American farmer and rancher. We're the breed that created and built this country. Are we any different than we were 103 years ago? Or when this nation was created? No. I would say we're even tougher. As long as we apply ourselves. We're American farmers, and I'm darn proud to be one. And I'm even more proud to lead this great organization as your president. And I thank you for that privilege. Best days of American agriculture and the best days of American Farm Bureau are in front of us. Yes, they're in front of us. So thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for applying yourself to the policy. Thank you for the phone call, the visit you're going to generate on your farm. Thank you for being an active grassroots of one of the greatest organizations in this country. And I promise you, those best days are ahead of us. And I had a wonderful time tonight. I got to eat dinner with Miss West Virginia. I know you're proud of her. Last but not least, there's one verse in the Bible that just sticks in my mind. I read a lot of verses and they empower me so much. But the one that sticks to me every morning is, whatever you do in life, whether you're Farm Bureau president, county president, mother, dad, father, son, friend, whatever you do in life, do it as though you were doing it for the Lord, not for man. And I promise you, as an organization, as an individual, if we do that, we'll go to bed feeling good at night, we'll get up in the morning feeling good, and we'll be optimistic about what we're going to do that day and accomplish. And our organization lives by that. And I respect that so much. So thank you. God bless you for having me tonight.
Zippy, we had just a little gift for you. One of you black Christmas ornaments. Oh, for you. That's beautiful.
Wow.
Oh, man.
I appreciate it. I appreciate all y'all. Thank you.